Good morning. I'm Dr. Harris. I am your instructor for Psychology 2143, and this is a recap of Chapter three's lesson. In this chapter, we're talking about consciousness of the mind, we're talking about drugs, we're talking about sleep patterns, we're talking about different types of disorders related to those sleep patterns, etc. We're also talking about any types of addictions, our tolerance levels, and we're going to look at briefly just how do we sort of process some of this stuff as we are moving forward in our study of the mind and our subsequent behavior. So we're starting out with some of our terms for the chapter was consciousness, which is an awareness of ourselves and our environment. So as we are obviously awake or alive, of course, we are conscious to hopefully to our surroundings, those things that are going on, the activities, the sounds, the different interactions with people that we may have, if we're driving, if we're walking, etc. We are hopefully we are aware of all of those things because being unconscious has some effects, as well as consciousness has some effects, and we'll look at those in a moment. My second term was hallucinations, which is a false sensory experience, such as seeing something in an absence of an external visual stimulus. So hallucination, if you can think about the mirage that someone might see in a desert experience, walking through the desert, there's nothing around, but through the extreme heat, they may begin to see something that is not actually there for a number of reasons. They're overheated, their body temperature is extremely high, and they could possibly be on the verge of dehydration. So our mind can sort of play tricks on us or hallucinate, as we're seeing here, and allow us to see something that we are craving. Okay. Insomnia, one of those sleep disorders. Narcolepsy is another, and sleep apnea. Insomnia is the issue of falling or staying asleep. If someone suffers from insomnia, their sleep patterns can be extremely sporadic, undependable, and they can find themselves extremely tired frequently because of the lack of rest. It is recommended that we as adults get 8 hours of sleep. If you look on page 88, it has animal sleep times. It shows the bat gets 20 hours, a baby 16 hours, kitten 12 hours, etc. As adults or young adults to senior adults, we can see a wide variety of sleep patterns under the normal conditions. I'm not talking about anyone with any type of sleep disorder, but maybe your younger to middle age adult is going to strive to get 8 hours, but it may be 6 to 8 hours. For those who are really conditioned or adamant about getting their 8 hours of rest, they're going to go to bed on time. On time could be like 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. You're going to get your best rest before midnight. If you get to sleep after 12 o'clock and you put in 8 hours, it's not the same rest as getting those hours before midnight. You can take a poll for yourself to see if that's true or not for you, but I found that the best rest comes from getting time in before the actual next day rolls around. Okay, and then tolerance and addiction refers to our level of satisfaction, or tolerance, our level of satisfaction with what we are intaking. Specifically, tolerance is with repeated use, achieving the desired effect, which would require larger doses. Okay, so tolerance is, okay, I'm able to, if I have a headache or constant headaches or cravings for anything, at some point, if I am staying at that certain level, let's say my headaches, take one aspirin, and that sort of helps me get back centered, ready to go. I'm able to focus. But with chronic headache or migraine issues, your need to be able to function in your vocation is important, especially if you are a person that is dependent on, you have a high profile position, and finally you receive compensation for that position. You are going to want to be able to be in that state of consciousness where you are very aware of your surroundings. So in order to do that, you have to eliminate all other barriers. So in terms of tolerance, that means that, you know what, this one aspirin is no longer helping me. I need to take two because I find myself focusing on the pain of the headache or migraine, and that is a distraction to my performance. So I need to take 2 aspirins, 3 aspirins. And what happens is your body becomes tolerant, or it becomes accustomed, it becomes used to that level of medical intake from the medication. So what do? Your body gets used to that. You have to up the dosage. Okay, when we get to that point of passing certain tolerance levels, and we see that we are having to depend on that drug or that event or that individual or whatever the variable may be, then we are moving from just tolerance into the conversation of addiction. And addiction is a compulsive craving despite the adverse consequences. So back to the analogy with the migraine headaches and the aspirins, so, or Tylenol or Advil or whatever the choice drug may be, marijuana for some, whatever that drug is that allows you to escape that feeling and perform said duties at the level that is needed, then we are now addicted to taking that, even though the high consumption of medication can have adverse effects on, let's say, like our kidney or our liver. Because of that intake is so high, we are taking in more than our body is used to. The effects of that is damage to potential organs. Okay, that's internally. The outward damage could be, okay, we are because of that excessive use, that addiction to that medication, now we have the organ damage. Now I have to spend more money on other medications to counteract that. I have to spend money on medical visits to the doctor's visits. Have to spend or lose money because now it's affecting work to the point where I have to take days off. So we go from that internal cost to the external cost, which ultimately affects our lives in both ways. So the behavioral aspect is that it prohibits us from doing the job that we have to do, and the mental consequences that we now have to deal with. Okay, man, I need this medication, but now I can't do my job because I'm having to stay at home or have to go to visit the doctor numerous times. And now this is sort of taking me into maybe a state of depression. However, those adverse effects does not stop you or does not stop an individual from taking the drug, whatever that drug may be, because the benefits of how it makes you feel overshadows the negative consequences of consuming that. So what addictions might you have is the question. We talked about in class yesterday, what are some of the addictions that you have? I believe we can have some healthy addictions. Depends, we can have obviously some negative addictions, and addictions are always associated, 99% of the time they're associated with something negative. Okay, so let's say you are addicted to snacks, what have you, fast food, greasy food, television, binge watching. That's huge with the takeover of streaming television, movies, etc. That is something that has become almost a norm to say, I've binge watched an entire season that had 8, 9, 10, double digits, whatever, a number of episodes, and then we get into episodes moving to seasons, and the next thing you know, we spend a whole day watching 10, 12 hours worth of television. And that's an addiction. Now, the negative consequences to that is if it affects, let's say, for a working man like myself, if I were to binge watch a television show for multiple hours throughout the day, the effects of that is that I'm missing out on family time with my children and with my spouse, my wife, and I could potentially be missing work because I'm just so captivated or entertained by this television series that I have just forgotten my other responsibilities. Those are some negative consequences that, you know what, I did not value as high enough to cut off my involvement with the television or what have you. Okay, that's what addictions do. It forfeits the positive things for that temporary satisfaction. Okay. All right. So let's go back to consciousness, our awareness of ourselves and our society. Okay. Benefits of being conscious. Again, consciousness is mentally perceptive or alert. Okay. To be awake. Okay. Number one, I've listed 4 benefits of being conscious. 1, aware of environmental surroundings. Okay. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it light? Is it dark? Etc. Am I in a safe neighborhood? Am I in a bad part of the neighborhood? Etc. 2, aware of people. Who is around me? Are there people around me that I trust or distrust? Are there people that I know? Or is everyone a complete stranger? Etc. 3, aware of my atmosphere, climate, mood of surroundings. Okay, so not just the environment. Okay, I am in a professional setting. I am in a casual setting. Okay, is it happy? Is it sad? Is it stressful? Is it tense? Does it make me nervous? Does it make me afraid, fearful, etc.? Being alert will allow you to accurately assess the situation so that you can respond accordingly. And finally, you prepare to handle the challenges of the surrounding environment. When you are ill prepared to handle your environment, you are probably going to respond in a way that is not the most beneficial to you at that time. So being prepared, aware of your surroundings, people, place, climate, etc., will allow you to process the situation as best as possible so that you can have a favorable outcome. Okay? Let's move to consequences of being unconscious, which is the absence of conscious awareness, not being mentally perceptive. Okay, 1, not aware of your location, how you got there, how to get away. So you can say someone that sleepwalks could fit into this category. 2, not aware of the type of people that are around you. You just go into a situation and, I thought I was going to meet some professionals, but I'm actually in the presence of uneducated individuals or what seems to be dangerous or violent individuals. 3, ignorant to the potential dangers that surround you. And finally, unprepared to handle the demands of that situation. So these are some things to consider as we're talking about being conscious of your surroundings, okay? And the better you can get the information in terms of where you're going, the better you're going to be able to be prepared for that situation. So, for example, as a musician, let's say you need to go on an audition. I think currently Visible is hosting auditions for summer touring openings or opening acts, various bands, etc. It would behoove you to know the specifics regarding that opportunities so you can better prepare for the audition. Please forgive me if you've already been through that process. But if you have yet to do that, then knowing what the audition material is obviously is important. And let's say you absolutely confident that you're going to make it, then knowing the logistics of the actual job would also make you better prepare yourself as an individual who has a personal life, a professional life, a social life, etc. Having as much information will make you more successful as you approach the date of that. Okay. All right. We talked about hallucinations again as one of our terms, which is a false sensory experience. Um, a synonym to hallucination would be a delusion, illusion, fantasy, or a dream. Okay. Some examples of hallucinations would be, again, dreaming, fantasizing about something that um, you want to happen, you think is happening, but is not actually happening, or seeing someone that is not present. We would call these ghosts, or if you watch any type of um, horror movies or suspense or thrillers, they might call them spirits, etc. Um, okay, question to you is, which you can answer in your response to this recap of chapter 3. Do you believe there are any positive effects to hallucinating? Um, Conversely, are there any negative effects to hallucination? Okay. All right. Let's move to sleep. Okay. This chapter went into sleep and dreams, and there are a few stages of the sleep process. Sleep and dreams is on page 83, and more specifically, the sleep stages is on page 84 and 85. Okay. All right. So we have just the ones that I want to talk about mainly will be the REM. Okay. And we have REM levels, and then 1, 2, and 3. Okay. The deepest pattern is where we are just most at rest. We are really submerged. It's not a superficial type of sleep, but it is a deep rest. And the book here, first of all, REM is rapid eye movement, and the book tells us that when we are asleep, that our eyes are just moving at obviously a rapid pace, and we are experiencing different levels as we get into the overall sleep pattern, which is an up and down process through the times of our rest period. So we go from being awake to falling into a beginning level of rest down to that deepest sleep. And the cool thing is that we talked about the 4 lobes last class period: the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, and the occipital lobe. We understand that the frontal lobe is the lobe that processes our decision making and our muscle movement. And during our sleep pattern, the motor cortex actually blocks those signals or messages to that part of the lobe, so that we don't have excessive movement while we're asleep. Okay, that's an extremely cool function that our brain and our body, and ultimately our Creator, has made for us to be able to have a time for our body to rejuvenate, which is extremely important for us. Okay, so some of the theories behind why we need sleep include sleep protects us from environmental danger. Sleep allows us to recuperate. It gives the body time to repair and replace brain tissue. Sleep helps restore and build our fading memories of day experiences. Sleep feeds creative thinking. And finally, sleep supports growth. So, in terms of sleep feeding creative thinking, again, as us being musicians, being artists, being creative people, it is important for us to be able to get rest, to recuperate our bodies from from the current days, the weekdays, activities, etc., so that we can begin again fresh. How many can agree that when you are extremely tired, that you can find it a little bit more difficult to focus on the task at hand, which could come in a form of excessive yawning, it can come in the form of nodding off, it can come in a form of lacking the ability to focus consistently on whatever the pattern is. So getting rest is very important to you functioning at max capacity in terms of what you are able to do. Okay, this is a very strategic thing that our Creator God has made a part of our life. So we must appreciate the um, the necessity for us to rest. Okay. Okay. Sleep and dreams. Let's talk a little bit more about sleep. I want to ask you this question: as you are getting older, day by day, we're all getting older. Have you noticed any changes in your approach to sleep in general? Do you sleep more? Do you sleep less? Do you have a pattern of when you rest? Are you a person that sleeps after midnight every night and wake up at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock? Or are you the type of person that can go to sleep at any time and still wake up religiously at a general time frame, 6, 7 o'clock, etc.? Me, myself, it really doesn't matter what time I go to bed. It can be 8 o'clock, it can be 2 o'clock in the morning. My eyes are going to be opening up around 6 o'clock, 5:30, between 5:30 and 6:30. I'm going to be awake. How about you? Do you notice any patterns? And I've been sort of an early riser my entire life, so I haven't. As I've gotten older, I'm still on that routine of waking up early. I'm an early riser, and I usually won't go to sleep until I get the things done for that particular day that I had put on my agenda to do. How about you? Are you noticing any changes in your sleep patterns? Okay. Do you find yourself able to get more rest, or do you find it difficult to get the rest that you desire to get? And if that second half is true, why? Why is it hard for you to get the rest that you need? Do you suffer from any type of sleep disorder? Do you find it just difficult to end your day? Do you find it difficult to put your mind at rest, even if you are in bed? Do you find it difficult to stop the thoughts that are going on? Do you find yourself in bed and playing around on your phone for another half hour, and next thing you know, it's like, man, it's been an hour. I went to bed at 10 o'clock. It's now 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Been scrolling through videos, etc., watching videos, commenting on posts at the various social media platforms. If that is you and you are displeased with that, are you making an attempt to make a change? And that change could be what? Okay. If you're playing on the phone and you know that you need rest, you might need to turn the phone off. Well, you would say, well, I need my phone because of an alarm. So are you willing to continue to wrestle or struggle with the ability to not put the phone down and not get the rest you need? Or are you willing to do something different, which would mean a small investment in, say, an alarm clock? I know that's not something many people use now because the phone has become the all inclusive, the everything that we need in the palm of our hand. And this sort of goes back to that addiction that I talked about. It's a great tool. However, the side effects we are not willing to put down because we recognize there are a number of benefits. However, we find ourselves sucked in and unable to put down the device because of the positives that we do see in it. However, we sort of have not taken a proactive approach to address the negative things that technology has sort of brought into our lives. So that's something that you have to be able to reconcile in your own mind, and you can do it if you are willing to do, if you are willing. Okay, now if you are willing to do it, then you're going to be able to make the necessary steps to put yourself in a place that's going to be more healthy for you. Because again, what are we trying to do with this study of psychology? We're trying to understand, why are we doing the things that we're doing? Okay, why are we participating in the things that we are participating in? Why are we saying what we're saying? And all of those have concrete answers. Okay, we are participating in the things that we are participating in because we enjoy them, because we don't have the confidence enough to stop participating for fear of um, being ostracized by our peers. And thirdly, we are just following the crowd and we're not thinking for ourselves. We're allowing others to think for us. And media is thinking for millions of people. We can see that with racial conflict. We can see that with politics. We can see that in the church. Okay, are you able to think for yourself? And the answer to that for many people is no, unfortunately. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, I mentioned sleep disorders earlier in this recap. I just want to go through those three that I mentioned again. Again, insomnia being a person that has the trouble, a recurring issue of falling and staying asleep. Okay, sleep apnea is the momentary loss of breath, if you will. Someone who struggles with sleep apnea actually stops breathing for a moment. And what happens is that lack of oxygen that they are experiencing forces them to inhale to take a new breath. So if you do a little research into it, some people sleep with a breathing apparatus to make sure that oxygen is actually flowing through their body. Okay, and then finally, a narcolepsy is an individual that can fall asleep at a moment's notice. And it's not that superficial sleep, it's that deep sleep. Okay? And we know that's extremely dangerous because someone who is suffers from narcolepsy could fall asleep in the most inopportune place, in a car, walking, etc. You think of anything that is dangerous, someone who has narcolepsy really will probably want to limit some of the activities that they do because of this reality that they have, unfortunately. All right. We also talked about one of our one of the other topics in this section was hypnosis, and I just don't want to stay here too long, but I want to know: do you believe in hypnosis? Do you think that that we can actually be hypnotized, fall under the spell of some someone else's command? Typically we've seen it count backwards from 10, or focus on the swing medallion or what have you. Do you guys believe this to be something that is true? I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Okay, just to go to the conversation of drugs really quick, we're talking about tolerance and addiction. What page is it in your books? If you look at, where is that? It's the page with the young lady on there who has a problem with addiction. Sorry, I don't have this page number right up. Oh, next page. Page 106. Page 106 at the bottom, we see this young lady here. First photo on the left, her age is 36, and the picture on the right shows her 4 years later after addiction. Looks like two different people here. This is very unfortunate, but the reality of the addiction is that we like the pleasure of it so much that we really just don't care about the consequences. We can see this with people who are married, who have sexual addictions. The consequences are that they are so engulfed in that pleasure that they don't really care enough about the consequences that it ruins their marriage. People who have alcohol addictions, they don't care enough about, and I would say they don't care enough about their family themselves or other people. They don't care about them enough to quit, to get help, to go through a detox program, to join an Alcoholics Anonymous group. They don't care enough. They love that taste. They love how their body responds. They love the feeling, etc. They love the atmosphere, the company that supports that type of lifestyle. They love that so much that they are really not concerned about the realities that, you know what, they're going to hurt some people emotionally. They could possibly kill themselves, and they could potentially kill other people. And we see that in the DUI convictions that people get in related to driving. So, you know, I've heard cases where the person that was under the influence of alcohol, you know, kills a family member of someone else, and they walk away with minimal damage, bodily damage. That's terrible. You know, they'll have to live with that reality of knowing that they took someone else's life because of their addiction to alcohol. In some cases, that can straighten up someone, and in many other cases, it doesn't. It sort of drives them further into that. But again, that is a decision. We must understand that the decision, you know, this conscious mind that we're talking about, we're making the decision to continue these practices because no one is taking that bottle and putting it to your face. You are making the decision to grab the bottle. You are making the decision to drive to your local Walmart or convenience store, gas station, and purchase your favorite beverage, alcoholic beverage. No one is forcing that on you. No one is forcing an individual to shoot drugs into their veins or to smoke it or to inhale it. It is a conscious choice because you have told yourself that this pleasure is worth it. This temporary satisfaction that I'm experiencing is worth it. And it's unfortunate. And this is why we need psychology. This is why we need facilities that treat individuals who are participating in this activity. They are suffering from it, but they're also, I would say, they're willingly participating in it. Unless you are being strapped to a chair and someone's forcing open your mouth and pouring alcohol down your throat, you are being a willing participant. And you are telling yourself that, you know, I can handle it. You know, it's not going to consume my life. And that's what many who are addicted to something are telling themselves. The medication, you know what? I'm just going to take one more. I'm just going to take this 2 pills this time, 3 pills this time, instead of the half a pill that the doctor has prescribed. You know, I'm just going to take this. It's going to get me through. It's going to take the edge off so that I can focus on my job. Okay, well, the issue of focusing on your job, okay, let's say maybe you need to get more rest. Maybe you need to stop going out. Maybe you need to ask for help. Maybe you need to get with someone who's an ace at the job, an expert, and ask them how you can be better at what it is that you have to do. There are ways, but we must choose. At the end of the day, you must choose what you need to do. Okay, so that there are a host of other great points in this chapter that we could talk about, but that's what we sort of went over in class yesterday. And even I want to encourage you students in Memphis, there is an opportunity for you even to consider the struggles that we are facing. There are a couple ways that we can look at the struggles that we can be extremely irritated and disgusted and unsatisfied with this experience. And I can tell you that you have a right to feel the way that you do based upon the experience that you're getting. So I would encourage you to take that complaint and voice it in a manner that is healthy, first of all, and go from there. Start there. You know what I mean? And when I say express it, I mean express it to those who can make changes. My job is to deliver the content as best as I can, and unfortunately, we have a barrier right now. So I'm praying for you guys. I'm praying for your mental state. Hope that you are doing well, and we're going to keep plugging along. We're going to keep plugging along. Okay. Love you guys with the love of the Lord. Have a great day. God bless you.